Hi there, welcome to Be a Surface Pro. Today's Surface Pro tip is which Surface Pen? This video will be a guide covering every Surface Pen from 2013 to 2020. We'll show you how to identify your pen. Up close, we'll tell you which Surface devices it works with, and we'll show you how to change the battery and the pen tip just in case you ever need to. Back in 2013, Microsoft launched the Surface Pro as the tablet that could replace your laptop. And one of the defining features of the Surface Pro line has always been the Surface Pen. Over the last 7 years, there have been 8 different Surface Pens by my count, and now there are many Surface devices that you can use them on. In a series of videos coming soon, we'll be discussing the science behind using your Surface Pen. It's such an important tool to have on a computer, so make sure that you dig out your Surface Pen if you haven't used it for a while and get it ready to use. We'll start with the current model Surface Pens and we'll work our way back. The current Surface Pen technology started life in 1999 at an Israeli company called Entrig. Now, I first heard of Entrig on the HP TX2000 back in 2008. It included this battery-powered pen, which was really unusual at the time, and it was integrated with a very thin capacitive touchscreen digitizer. So many companies after that used that Entrig DuoSense display, and it was really popular on Windows and Android tablets since it offered a really good two-in-one solution for both active pen inputs and touch together. In 2015, Microsoft bought that company outright, so they now own the whole technology stack behind the current Surface Pens. They renamed the technology as the Microsoft Pen Protocol, and they now even license it to companies like HP, Dell, Lenovo, and others. Microsoft have a handy Surface support page that tells you how to identify your pen, and we'll link to that page below, and we'll reference each pen in this video as it's described on that page for you. So we'll begin with the Surface Slim Pen, the very latest model. Now, you're most likely to have this Surface Slim Pen if you have a Surface Pro X, although it does work with practically all Surface models from the Pro 3 onwards. Now, the only current Surface model that doesn't support any pens at all is the Surface Laptop Go. But this pen also does not work on any of the early Surface RT, Surface 2, Surface Pro 1 and 2 models, nor does it work on the original Surface Hub, but it does work on the new Surface Hub 2S. It's a very easy pen to identify. There's not much to take care of with this pen either. The pen tip is hard plastic. It's designed to resist wear and damage, and despite its Apple Pencil-like hardness, it is actually much quieter than the Apple Pencil, and it's smoother on the screen too. The pen tip is removable. However, at this stage, there is no replacement tip kit available to purchase. In the unlikely event that you need to replace the pen tip, Microsoft currently asks that you contact their support line. According to some reports, if you have a broken pen tip, they will replace the entire pen for free. It seems a little bit odd and unsustainable, so I do hope that Microsoft change this policy in future and offer a replacement pen tip for sale. The Slim Pen also has an inbuilt rechargeable battery, so there's no battery to change. There's really nothing to take apart on this pen at all. The Slim Pen charges via the Surface Pro X keyboard slot or the charging base that comes with the pen if you buy it separately. There is a button on the side of the pen for right-clicking or lasso selecting depending on the app, and there's an eraser on the back. The eraser includes a Bluetooth click button. Clicking down on the eraser, you'll feel a distinct click. It'll trigger an action on your computer, like opening the Whiteboard app. Double-clicking that button will take a screenshot, and pressing and holding the button will open the Sticky Notes app. This button also doubles as a slide clicker when you're in PowerPoint. You can change what this button does in the Settings app. We have a separate video on that, and we'll leave a link to that below. A little side point, Surface Pens do not require Bluetooth. Most of the functionality of the pen, like drawing, selecting, and erasing, have nothing to do with Bluetooth. However, this eraser click button function does require Bluetooth. It's the only part of the Surface Pen that does require Bluetooth pairing to work. And you'll find this same Bluetooth button function on the next few Surface Pens too. The next pen, another current model of the Surface Pen, is given the distinguished title of Surface Pen with no clip. An odd name for sure. I just call it the Surface Pen, but it was released in 2017 along with the Surface Pro 2017 that we know as the Surface Pro 5. It comes in several colors now with some new additions last year like ice blue and poppy red. There's also a burgundy and another blue color, I think it was called cobalt, and gray. Like the Surface Slim Pen, this one supports tilt and 4096 levels of pressure on the latest Surface models. Again, this one is not compatible with Surface RT, Surface 2, Surface Pro 1 and Pro 2, the Surface Laptop Go, and all of the Surface hubs. It works well with all of the other Surface models. As the name suggests, it has no clip, and that'll make more sense when you see the next pen. It has a 4A battery inside. The eraser end of the pen is removable. Just pull it straight out. It's different on other Surface Pen models, so make sure that you have this one with no clip before trying this. The E96 or 4A battery goes in positive side up, and you should only need to replace that battery once every 12 to 18 months. The pen tip on this model is removable and replaceable, and you can buy a pen tip kit for this model that includes a selection of 3 different tips from hard to soft. So if you're not loving the feel of this Surface Pen, grab one of these tip kits and try out the hard or softer pen tip. To remove the tip, use a pair of tweezers, pop in the new tip of your choice and just press it in. If you just need a replacement for the standard pen tip, you can buy replacements for the standard HB tips in a kit from Surface commercial resellers. They come in small and large bundles depending on your market. This pen has a single button on the side for right click and lasso select, and there's an eraser on the back end too. Also, like the Slim Pen, the eraser has that Bluetooth PowerPoint clicker action and also program launcher. Apart from replacing the battery and the pen tip, there's not really much else to it. Now, you might not have seen this pen, but in early 2019, Microsoft launched a smaller, cheaper Surface Pen called the Surface Classroom Pen, obviously targeted to schools. Pens, by the way, are very important for learning, so this is a great option for schools on a budget. The pen is compatible with most recent Surface models. It has pressure sensitivity, but no tilt. Again, this one's not compatible with Surface RT, Surface 2, Pro 1 and 2, Surface Laptop Go, and all of the Surface hubs. It works well with other Surface models, including the Surface Go, Go 2, Pro 7 and Pro X. This pen's a bit of a throwback to some of the earlier N-Trig pen designs. In fact, it's nearly identical to this Motion CL900 pen that I have here from 2011. It's an older design that features a very similar tip style to the Surface Pro 3 pen that we'll see shortly. The top end unscrews to allow you to change the 4A battery. Now, I don't know how long the battery will last in this pen, and I'd be interested if you have any experience with it, but I suspect that it'll be around about the same as the Surface Pro 3 pen, so I'd expect 3 to 6 months of battery life. The battery goes in positive end first, and there's a handy little tag that shows you this, and you can leave that tag on to remind you. The pen tip is removable, and you may be able to get replacement pen tips from Microsoft support again, or by digging around online. I did find some third-party tips on Amazon that should do the trick for this pen, so we'll leave an Amazon affiliate link below. Same process for removing the tip. Use a pair of tweezers, pop in the new tip and press it in. Again, not loving the names here, Microsoft, but this one they call the Surface Pen with single button on flat edge. It has a pen clip. I think they could have mentioned that in the name too, don't you? This pen has a flat side, just like the Surface Pen with no clip, but it has this pocket clip that distinguishes it. It's no longer sold by Microsoft, but it came in silver, black, blue, and burgundy. There was even a gold version of this pen, which I had at one stage. Now, it can detect pressure, but it does not have tilt sensing. Again, this pen is compatible with most recent Surface models, but it's not compatible with Surface RT, Surface 2, Surface Pro 1 and 2, Surface Laptop Go, and all of the Surface hubs. It works well with all of the other Surface devices, including the Pro 7 and the Pro X. To get the battery out on this one is a little tricky, so make sure that this is your pen and it has a clip on the side. If it doesn't, you've got a different pen, so don't do this. On this pen, the eraser end twists counterclockwise to the left about 1/8 of a turn. Then you can pull the eraser end out and get the battery out. Same 4A battery, and it goes in positive side up. And the battery on this pen should last at least a year. I'm tipping that if you have one of these pens, you've at least replaced the battery by now. If not, it probably needs one. If you've never used a 4A battery before, don't worry, they're very easy and cheap to buy. Now reverse the procedure to put it back together, and again, be careful to align it right, as you can break the delicate contact strip that's just inside the pen. So if you do this wrong and you're forcing it, stop, take a closer look and try again. Like the newer Surface Pen with no clip, this one has a replacement pen tip kit. In fact, if you bought this pen separately from your Surface, you probably got one of those pen tip kits in the box. There are 4 different pen tips ranging from hard to soft. And fortunately, you can still get these pen tips. And because the newer pen tips are not quite cross-compatible, you'll want to get these specific ones. So we'll leave a link to these tips in the description. The pen tip kit comes with its own inbuilt tweezer tool, which is handy. Take it out, press in a new tip, and off you go. Going back a bit now to 2014, when the original N-Trig-based Surface Pen appeared. Microsoft now call it Surface Pen with 2 side buttons. And we mainly associate it with the Surface Pro 3. It's got a round barrel, it's silver, and it's easily identified by its purple end. That end, by the way, is not an eraser, which we'll get into in a moment. However, when the smaller 10-inch Surface 3, as distinct from the larger Pro 3, when that launched in 2015, Microsoft released some variants of this pen in red, blue, and black. No purple button on the end of these pens, so you'll need to look for those 2 side buttons to identify it. Again, this pen is compatible with most recent Surface models. It does have pressure sensing, but it does not have tilt. It's not compatible again with Surface RT, Surface 2, Surface Pro 1 and Pro 2, Surface Laptop Go, and all of the Surface hubs. It works well with all of the other Surface models though, including the Pro 7, Go 2, and Pro X. I actually quite like this layout with the eraser on the side, and you'll notice that it's the same layout as the more recent Classroom pen. Now this pen had a top cap that included a purple button. That's a Bluetooth button. And like the newer Surface pens, you can actually pair it with your Surface and use it to launch programs. Originally when this came out on Windows 8, clicking that button would actually launch a OneNote page that you could write on without logging into your computer. And that was really handy, especially back then when we didn't have face recognition. Unscrew it counterclockwise until it comes out. You'll see that there's a 4A battery and it goes in positive side down, just like the Classroom pen. The battery here runs the pen and the side buttons, but unfortunately it'll only last about 3 to 6 months in general, so you'll have burnt through a few of these batteries by now if you're still using this pen. The tricky thing about this pen is that the purple button on the end is really its own separate device, with its own separate batteries. Underneath this spring, there's a screw pattern. So take out the spring, pop in a small Phillips head screwdriver and unscrew it, and you'll reveal some tiny little button batteries. By now, 5 or 6 years down the track, these batteries are probably flat, but you can replace them. The batteries are called SR527SW, and you can still source these little things. But please be careful with them, dispose of them properly because they are dangerous, especially to small children. And like we mentioned earlier with the Surface Classroom pen, you can get replacement pen tips for the Pro 3 pen. We'll leave an Amazon affiliate link for those below. At this stage though, I've found that a lot of these Surface Pro 3 pens have failed. The later models were much more reliable. They used much less power, thanks to the addition of an accelerometer that was inbuilt and it turned them off. And they also were less complicated because they only had one battery, a single source of power. So if you're hanging on to some of these old Pro 3 pens, well, it's probably time to look for a new model, perhaps an alternative. We've reviewed some good alternatives before and we'll leave a link to that video below too. Now back to the Surface Pen history lesson. The original Surface Pro launched with a Wacom active digitizer pen. Now basically the Wacom tech used on that model had been around for a long time. And in fact, the same tech is still in use today on my Galaxy Note phone. You might know it as the S Pen. In fact, this original Surface Pen actually works on my Samsung Galaxy Note 10 today. The electromagnetic resonance pen system is actually the same one that I first came across on my Compaq or HP TC1100 back in 2003. The technology has been around since the 80s though. The Surface Pro 1 and Surface Pro 2 used the same Wacom pen system. Back in the day, we knew it as Wacom Penabled. The beauty of the Wacom Penabled system is that the pens don't actually require power. They're powered through the screen with a tiny electromagnetic field. So with the Surface Pro 1 and Pro 2, there's no battery in the pen, nothing to change. Most of those Wacom pens came with spare pen tips. And if you're still using one of these pens, then hopefully you've got some of those old pen tips lying in a drawer somewhere. I personally never used these original Surface Pro models, but I did use a lot of similar Wacom pens for many years. I never had to replace a pen tip in my very frequent use, but I did occasionally see a pen tip that was broken or needed replacement. I actually once saw one that had been melted off. I don't know how. Typically, the pen tip can be removed again with a pair of tweezers. Replacements though, that'd be very hard to source now. And if you don't have any on hand, well, you probably need to do a bit of hunting and do a bit of research online to find an equivalent pen tip. This pen model only works on the Surface Pro 1 and Pro 2. Now this Wacom pen is not compatible with any of the current Surface models. The pen though, it actually does work on other devices that use that Wacom EMR system, just like my Galaxy Note. So that's 6 Surface pens. What's left? Well, there is the Surface Hub. The original Surface Hub had a very different pen system. It had a self-charging system. You could use up to 3 pens at the same time on the screen. Now, it wasn't an N-Trig or a Wacom digitizer system, but something else entirely. The pens are rather large and a bit chunky, but they were really great to use and much better than the alternatives of the time. So that's another pen, but I actually don't have an original Surface Hub or a pen to show you. Best I can do is these pictures. The Hub 1 pen only works on the original Surface Hub. But what I do have is the Surface Hub 2 S Pen. It's much larger than the Surface Pen, but it actually works on my Surface Pro X and my Pro 7, and it most likely works on all of the other Surface models from the Pro 3 on. That's because the Surface Hub 2S includes the Microsoft Pen Protocol technology, formerly known as N-Trig. But now it's shipping on a 55-inch screen and very soon on an 80-inch device. It has the same right-click lasso button on the side, and it also has the eraser on the back. There's even that Bluetooth button built into the end, just like on all of the other Surface pens. Now, as I said, this new Surface Hub 2S pen does work on other Surface devices. But what about the other way around? Well, my Pro 7 pen doesn't work on the Hub 2S, but my Surface Slim pen does. So that's interesting. I guess that means that there's a newer version of the Microsoft Pen Protocol built into the Surface Hub and also built into the Pro X. Will the Pro X Slim pen become the new Surface Pen? Will Microsoft update the current Surface Pen with no clip to work on the Hub? What new improvements are updated in this pen? I have lots of questions, but unfortunately not many answers yet. What I do know about this pen is that it has a regular 3A battery inside, and it can be replaced by pulling out the eraser end. Not sure how long this battery will last, but I suspect that it would be at least a couple of years. The battery goes in positive first. There are no pen tips available for this one, so again, you'll need to contact Microsoft Surface support in the unlikely event that you need a replacement pen tip or it gets damaged. So that's a look at the 8 different Surface pens that we've seen from 2013 to 2020. What will 2021 bring? Maybe there'll be a new Surface Pen, who knows? I hope so. What Surface Pen do you use? Tell us in the comments below. And we'll do our best to answer any questions you have about Surface Pens there too. Now, we're currently looking to make another video on how to diagnose and fix issues with the Surface Pen. So if you have any tips or helpful links, we'd love you to tell us about them again in the comments. Give us the thumbs up if you found this helpful, and remember to subscribe to this channel for our upcoming videos on the science behind the Surface Pen. Replacement pen tip is give us... Oh, come on! I hate this. And it was released in 2017 along with the... Close. Blue and burgundy.